The alien fleet entered the star system without fear. They had done this many times before. New systems were scanned. New species were judged. If the species was weak, it was removed. This was how the Zarkun Empire ruled space. Admiral Kazun stood inside the main command hall of the flagship Void Crown. The room was wide and dark, filled with floating screens and quiet officers. Outside, hundreds of alien warships moved in perfect formation. Everything was under control. "Begin full system scan," Kazun said calmly. The scanners activated. Light waves, energy signals, and gravity maps spread across the screens. At first, the results were normal. A yellow star. 6 planets. Asteroid belts. Basic radio noise. Nothing special. One officer relaxed. "No advanced civilizations detected," he said. Kazun nodded. "Prepare ground survey teams." But then, one scanner panel flickered. An officer leaned forward. "Sir, this reading does not make sense." Kazun turned slowly. "What did you find?" The officer adjusted the scan range. "There are objects, large objects, near the outer planet." "How many?" the admiral asked. The officer paused. "More than expected." The main screen zoomed in. Dark shapes appeared. Long, sharp, silent. They were ships. Very large ships. The room became quiet. "Why were these not detected earlier?" Kazun asked. Another officer checked the data. No warp trails. No energy leaks. No heat glow. "That is impossible," someone whispered. "Every ship left traces. Every ship. Except these." "Identify the species," Kazun ordered. The system worked for several seconds. Then a single word appeared on the screen. "Unknown." The word felt heavy. Unknown meant danger. Unknown meant the Empire had no control. Murmurs spread across the command hall. "That cannot be right," an officer said. "We have records of all spacefaring species." Kazun stared at the screen. "These ships, they are not hiding," he said slowly. "They are simply quiet." The scanners tried again. And failed again. "They are blocking our scans," an officer said, his voice tight. "Not blocking," another replied. "Ignoring." That was worse. Suddenly, the ships on the screen moved. Not fast. Not aggressive. Just a small adjustment in position. But it was perfect. "They reacted to our scan," an officer said. "So they can see us," Kazun replied. The admiral felt a strange tension in his chest. No first contact species ever noticed the Zarkun fleet so quickly. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. The signal was sent. There was no reply. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Silence. "They are not responding," an officer said. Kazun narrowed his eyes. "They are choosing not to." At that moment, warning lights flashed. "Admiral!" a voice shouted. "Our long-range sensors just went offline." Another officer stood up. "Short-range sensors too." "What about weapon systems?" Kazun demanded. "Operational, but targeting is unstable." The admiral looked back at the screen. The unknown ships were closer now. Much closer. Still no engine glow. Still no weapons charge. "They are inside our sensor blind zone," someone whispered. Fear entered the room. This was not normal. No species approached an Imperial fleet without fear. "Raise shields," Kazun ordered. The shields activated. But nothing happened. No attack. No warning shots. Just silence. Then, one sensor came back online. A visual feed. The screen showed the nearest unknown ship. It was massive. Dark metal armor covered its body. Its shape was sharp and heavy, built for war. "This design," an officer said quietly. "It is not defensive." "It is a hunter," another said. The ship turned slightly. It was facing the flagship. Directly. "They are locking on us," an officer said. "No," Kazun replied slowly. "They are looking at us." That was when the admiral understood something terrible. These ships were not surprised. They were not confused. They were calm, like soldiers waiting for orders. Kazun felt cold. This is not their first contact, he said. The room went silent. Admiral, an officer asked. They have done this before, Kazun continued. And they survived. The unknown ships stopped moving. Perfect distance. Perfect position. A clear message. We see you. Kazun realized the truth. The Zarkan fleet had not found a weak species. They had found something else. Something watching. Something patient. And something far more dangerous than expected. Silence filled the command hall of the Void Crown. The unknown ships remained still. Too still. Admiral Kazun watched the screen without blinking. The dark human ship floated in front of the fleet like a shadow made of metal. No signals. No weapons fire. No movement. That silence was louder than any battle alarm. Why are they not attacking? An officer asked quietly. Kazun did not answer. Because he was asking the same question. Check their energy levels again, he ordered. The officer worked fast. They are running on low visible power, he said. But there is hidden energy. Deep inside the ship. Hidden? Another officer asked. How much? The officer hesitated. Enough to destroy this fleet. The room froze. That is impossible, someone said. No ship carries that much power without showing it. Kazun's voice was calm, but cold. Unless they do not fear us. That thought spread like poison. The Zarkan Empire was feared across the galaxy. Entire civilizations surrendered after seeing their fleet. But these ships did not even react. Admiral, a tactical officer said, our targeting systems cannot lock onto them. Why? They keep shifting position by tiny amounts. Perfect timing. Perfect angles. They were dancing, not to avoid fire, but to remind the fleet that they could. Kazun clenched his claws. Send a warning message, he ordered. Standard Imperial Protocol. The message was sent. A clear, powerful transmission. Unknown vessels, you have entered controlled space. Power down and identify yourselves. The fleet waited. Seconds passed. Nothing. Then 1 minute. Still nothing. They are ignoring us, an officer said. No, Kazun replied. They are listening. Suddenly, a different alarm sounded. Admiral, historical database alert. What now? An intelligence officer stepped forward. Our archives found similar sensor patterns from ancient war records. Kazun turned sharply. Explain. The officer swallowed. These records are very old. From before the Empire. From who? No clear name, the officer said. But the reports describe silent ships. Dark armor. No response to threats. The room grew colder. And the outcome? Kazun asked. The officer lowered his eyes. Entire fleets lost. No survivors. Fear was no longer hidden. One officer whispered, Are they ghosts? Kazun stared at the human ship. No, he said slowly. Ghosts do not wait. The unknown vessels suddenly changed formation. Not aggressive, but strategic. They spread out, surrounding the Zarkan fleet. They are flanking us, a tactical officer said. How did they move so fast without engines? Another asked. No one answered. Admiral, a weapons officer said nervously. If they fire first, our shields may not hold. Kazun knew that tone. It was fear. Real fear. Do not fire, he ordered. But sir, I said do not fire. The command hall fell silent again. If this turned into a fight, the Empire might lose everything. The unknown ships stopped moving. Then, a single beam of light appeared. Not a weapon. A scan. But it was different. This scan was gentle. Controlled. It touched the flagship's hull and moved across it slowly. They are scanning us, an officer said. Can we block it? No, came the reply. It goes through everything. Kazun felt exposed. Like prey under a hunter's eyes. What are they looking for? someone asked. Before anyone could answer, screens across the room lit up. Data streamed in. Detailed. Too detailed. They are reading our ship design, an engineer said in shock. Our weapons. Our shields. Even crew layout. How long would that take our scanners? Kazun asked. Hours, the engineer replied. For them, seconds. The scan ended. The light disappeared. The unknown ships remained silent. But something had changed. They know us now, Kazun said. The fleet felt smaller. Weaker. Admiral, an officer said softly. What if they decide to attack? Kazun took a slow breath. Then we pray they choose not to. At that moment, a new signal appeared. Not audio. Not visual. A simple data pulse. It's a message, the communications officer said. But it's not a language. Then what is it? The officer studied the data. It's a map. A map of what? The officer's voice dropped. Our fleet positions. Our weak points. Our escape routes. The message was clear. We know everything. Kazun finally understood. This was not a threat. This was a warning. The humans were saying, you are alive because we allow it. The admiral straightened. Open all channels, he said. Prepare to respond. The officers looked at him in shock. Sir, we don't even know who they are. Kazun kept his eyes on the dark ship. Then it is time we learn, he said. Because one thing was certain now. The silent ships were not afraid. And the fear inside the Zarkan fleet was only growing. The alien fleet stayed still. No one fired. No one spoke loudly. The message from the unknown ships was still on the screen. A perfect map of the Zarkan fleet. Every weakness exposed. Admiral Kazun slowly turned toward the science officers. Analyze their technology, he ordered. Everything. The officers moved fast. Multiple scanners activated at once. Deep scans. Quantum scans. Gravitational scans. At first, the data looked broken. This cannot be right, a scientist said. What did you find? Kazun asked. The scientist's hands trembled. Their ships do not rely on shield systems like ours. Then how do they defend themselves? They don't, the scientist replied. They absorb damage. The room went silent. Explain, Kazun said. Their hull is layered. Each layer reacts differently. Energy weapons lose power. Plasma spreads and fades. Kinetic weapons are redirected. Another scientist joined in. It is not armor, he said. It is a living structure. Fear returned. No species builds ships like this, an officer whispered. The scans continued. Then a warning symbol appeared. Admiral, a technician said. We are detecting weapon systems. Show me. The screen filled with red markers. Too many. Energy cannons. Rail weapons. Missile bays. Something unknown. These are standard weapons, Kazun said. But what are those? The technician zoomed in on one system. That weapon uses gravity. The room reacted at once. Gravity weapons are banned, someone shouted. They destroy star systems. Kazun's voice was cold. Lower your voice. The technician shook his head. It's worse, he said. They don't just bend gravity. He paused. They break it. A heavy silence followed. How powerful? Kazun asked. The technician took a breath. One shot could crush a capital ship into dust. Another screen flashed. Admiral, a scientist called out. There's more. The scan moved deeper into the ship. What we thought were engines. They are not engines. Then what are they? The scientist swallowed. They are weapon cores. The fear became visible now. Their ships are weapons, an officer said. Yes, the scientist replied. Every part of them. The scan reached the final layer. Then it stopped. Blocked. There is something we cannot see, the technician said. A sealed section. Heavily protected. Can you force the scan? We tried. And The technician looked at the Admiral. It pushed back. Kazun narrowed his eyes. Pushed back. Our systems were damaged, the technician said. Just by touching it. The human ship had defended itself without firing. The unknown vessels shifted slightly. Not aggressive. Not defensive. Confident. They know we are scanning them, an officer said. And they are allowing it, Kazun replied. Another data alert appeared. Admiral, the intelligence officer said, our database has unlocked more ancient records. Read it. The officer's voice was low. These ships match a lost legend, a species from a dangerous region of space. What were they called? The officer hesitated. The records use one word. Human. The room reacted in shock. That species was declared extinct, someone said. Wrong, Kazun replied. They simply left. The records continued. Humans evolved on a high-gravity death world. Constant wars. Limited resources. Endless survival. Kazun understood now. They were forged by conflict. Another warning sounded. Admiral, one human ship is powering a weapon. The command hall exploded into panic. Shields to maximum. Prepare counter-fire. Lock targets. Kazun raised his hand. Hold! The human weapon charged. Space itself bent. The Zarkan fleet felt pressure. Then, the weapon powered down. No shot fired. The humans had shown restraint. Or worse, control. They wanted us to see that, Kazun said quietly. The unknown ships returned to silence. The message was clear. We could end you, but we choose not to. Admiral Kazun stood straight. This was no invasion. This was a warning from a species that had mastered war. A species that carried weapons no one else should have. And the worst part, they were still not afraid. The human ships went quiet again. No weapons charged. No movement. Just dark shapes floating in space. The Zarkan command hall was tense. Every officer waited. Admiral Kazun kept his eyes on the main screen. They showed us their power, he said. Now they will speak. Minutes passed. Then, a soft alert sounded. Admiral, the communications officer said, we are receiving a signal. Audio. Kazun asked. Yes, and visual. Put it through. The screen shifted. Static appeared. Then cleared. A single figure filled the display. It was not alien. It was human. The being stood straight. 2 arms. 2 legs. Eyes forward. The human wore a dark uniform with no bright colors. No signs of rank. No signs of pride. Just calm. The room froze. This is Admiral Elias Grant of the United Earth Fleet, the human said. His voice was steady. No anger. No fear. You have entered a protected system. The translator worked instantly. Kazun leaned forward. You speak calmly, the Admiral said. Why? The human did not react. Because panic leads to mistakes, Grant replied. And mistakes lead to war. The words struck deep. You scanned us, Kazun said. You exposed our fleet. Yes, Grant replied. You scanned us first. The human's eyes stayed focused. We allowed it. A chill moved through the room. Kazun felt his authority weaken. Why reveal your power? He asked. Because we prefer honesty, Grant said. Hidden power creates fear. The human paused. Fear causes deaths. The silence returned. Kazun studied the human face. No signs of lies. Your species was listed as extinct, Kazun said. Grant's expression did not change. We are very hard to erase. The officers exchanged looks. Why are you here? Kazun asked. This system is under human protection, Grant replied. It always has been. That is impossible, Kazun said. There are no colonies here. Grant nodded. Correct. We are not protecting planets. Then what? Grant's eyes sharpened. We are protecting routes, trade paths, future lives. The Zarkan had never heard such thinking. You control space without owning it? Kazun asked. Yes, Grant replied. We learned long ago that ownership leads to war. The human leaned slightly forward. And war is something we know too well. The meaning was clear. Are you threatening us? Kazun asked. No, Grant said calmly. I am warning you. A data stream appeared. Human history logs. Short clips. Broken cities. Burning skies. Wounded soldiers standing again. The officers watched in silence. We survived worse than this, Grant said. We survived ourselves. The feed ended. Kazun understood. These humans did not fear war. They feared repeating it. What do you want from us? Kazun asked. Grant answered without delay. Leave this system. And if we refuse? Kazun asked. The human paused. Only for a moment. Then we will act, Grant said. Decisively. No threat. Just truth. The human straightened. We do not seek enemies, he continued. But we will end them. The message was clear. The screen went dark. The signal ended. The human ships did not move. But the Zarkan fleet felt smaller than ever. Kazun exhaled slowly. They are not conquerors, he said. Then what are they? An officer asked. Kazun looked at the empty screen. Guardians, he replied. And for the first time in his long career, the admiral felt relief mixed with fear. Because the humans were watching. And they were ready. The human signal ended. The screen in the command hall went dark. But the words stayed. We will act. Decisively. Admiral Kazun remained still. Begin full historical search, he ordered. I want everything about humans. The intelligence officers moved fast. Old archives opened. Lost data files unlocked. Forbidden records appeared. These files were sealed by ancient councils, an officer said. Open them, Kazun replied. The first record played. A small blue planet appeared on the screen. This is Earth, the officer said. A high-gravity world. Storms covered the surface. Volcanoes erupted. Oceans crashed against land. Life here should not survive, a scientist said. But it did, Kazun replied. The next file showed early humans. Small, weak, unarmored. They had no claws. No natural armor, an officer said. No venom. No advanced senses. Then why did they survive? Another asked. The record continued. Humans fighting their own world. Cold regions. Hot deserts. Scarce food. They adapted, the officer said. They changed the environment instead of running from it. Images shifted. Human tribes fighting each other. Wars. Many wars. They did not unite at first, Kazun said. No, the officer replied. They fought constantly. Cities burned. Weapons improved. Tactics evolved. They learned war early, a military analyst said. Very early. The screen showed human machines. Tanks. Jets. Missiles. They built weapons before reaching space, the analyst continued. And they used them often. Kazun felt uneasy. The next file focused on space expansion. Humans reached orbit without peace, the officer said. They carried conflict with them. Human ships battled above planets. Stations were destroyed. They should have destroyed themselves, an officer whispered. But they didn't, Kazun said. Another record appeared. A massive war. Human against human. The scale was terrifying. They nearly went extinct, the officer said. Several times. The room went silent. And every time, Kazun said slowly, they survived. The final record unlocked. First contact. Not with the Zarkan. With another alien empire. That empire attacked first, the officer said. The screen showed human colonies burning. Human ships, damaged but fighting back. They were weaker then, the officer continued. Outmatched. The humans did something unexpected. They adapted, the officer said. They captured enemy technology. Improved it. Alien fleets began to fall. One by one. That war ended with human victory, the officer said. And then, the record ended. Kazun leaned forward. And then what? They disappeared, the officer replied. They left known space. Why? Kazun asked. The officer paused. Because they were afraid. Afraid? Of what? Someone asked. The officer spoke carefully. Of becoming monsters. The room was silent. They realized their strength, the officer continued, and what it could do. The humans had chosen restraint. They had chosen distance. Until now. So they are not weak, an officer said. No, Kazun replied. They are controlled. That was far worse. A new alert sounded. Admiral, the communications officer said. Human ships are repositioning. Attack formation? Someone asked. No, the officer said. Defensive. They are protecting something, Kazun said. He understood now. Humans did not rule by fear. They ruled by presence. Prepare a response, Kazun ordered. What kind? An officer asked. The admiral straightened. A respectful one. Because one truth was now clear. Humans were not weak. They were survivors. And survivors did not need to prove their strength. The Zarkon fleet waited. Human ships held their positions, calm and unmoving. They were not advancing. They were not retreating. They were guarding. Admiral Kazun stood in silence, his thoughts heavy. For the first time in his life, power felt useless. Status report, he said. Shield stable, an officer replied. Weapons ready. And our chances? Kazun asked. No one answered at first. Then a tactical officer spoke. If humans attack, we will lose. No hesitation. No comfort. Just truth. Kazun nodded slowly. The room was filled with fear, but also respect. What are the humans doing? He asked. They are maintaining formation, the officer said. Protecting all entry paths. They are showing control, Kazun said. Another alert sounded. Admiral, we are receiving another signal. From the humans? No, the officer replied. From our own fleet. Several captains were requesting permission to withdraw. They were afraid. And Kazun could not blame them. He remembered the records. Human wars. Human restraint. Human strength. This was not a battle worth fighting. Open a channel to Admiral Grant, Kazun ordered. The screen activated. The human appeared again. Still calm. Admiral Grant, Kazun said. You have made your point. Grant nodded once. That was not our goal, he replied. Our goal is peace. The word felt strange. Peace through strength, Kazun said. Yes, Grant answered. But strength with limits. Kazun took a deep breath. The Zarkon Empire will withdraw from this system, he said. The room froze. Some officers looked shocked. Others looked relieved. Grant's expression did not change. A wise decision, he said. But understand this, Kazun continued. We will remember this encounter. So will we, Grant replied. The human leaned forward. Admiral Kazun, your fleet is leaving alive today because you chose wisdom over pride. The words were not an insult. They were respect. Kazun bowed his head slightly. Begin fleet withdrawal, he ordered. Engines powered up. The massive fleet turned away. No shots fired. No losses. As the ships moved, the human fleet adjusted. Always watching. Always ready. As the Zarkon fleet reached the edge of the system, Kazun looked back one last time. The human ships did not follow. They stayed, guarding the dark. The Admiral felt something unexpected. Gratitude. Admiral, an officer said quietly, if we had attacked. Kazun shook his head. There would be no one left to tell the story. The jump engines charged. Stars stretched into lines. The Zarkon fleet vanished into hyperspace. Behind them, the human fleet remained. Silent, strong, unmoving. The Zarkon fleet jumped away. Space became quiet again. Only the human ships remained. They did not chase. They did not celebrate. They simply stayed where they were. Guarding. Inside the human flagship, Admiral Elias Grant watched the stars fade back into normal space. "Status," he said. "All systems stable," an officer replied. "No pursuit." Grant nodded. That was expected. The humans had learned long ago. Victory did not always mean destruction. Sometimes survival was enough. Far across the galaxy, the Zarkan fleet regrouped. Admiral Kazun stood alone in his chamber. The silence felt different now. He replayed the encounter again and again. The calm human voice. The controlled power. The choice not to kill. "They could have ended us," he said quietly. "But they did not." A message was sent across the Zarkan Empire. A warning. Do not provoke the humans. Do not test their patience. Respect their borders. Other empires listened. Stories spread. Not exaggerated. Not dramatic. Just true. Silent ships. Impossible weapons. Calm voices. Humans. Trade routes changed. Fleets avoided human-protected space. Not out of fear alone, but respect. The humans did not demand tribute. They did not conquer. They watched. And if someone crossed the line, they responded. Quickly. Decisively. Without anger. Years passed. The galaxy adjusted. Conflicts dropped near human space. Pirates vanished. Wars slowed. Because everyone knew. If humans stepped in, the war would end. On Earth, most humans never heard the full story. They went on with their lives. Building. Exploring. Protecting. They did not call themselves legends. They did not see themselves as heroes. They remembered their past. The wars. The mistakes. The cost. That was why they chose restraint. Because they knew exactly what they were capable of. On the edge of the protected system, a human patrol ship drifted quietly. A young officer looked at the stars. "Sir," he asked, "why do they fear us so much?" The captain looked at him. "They don't fear us," he said. "They fear what happens when we stop caring." The ship continued its patrol. Silent. Watching. Ready. Somewhere far away, a new species looked up at the stars for the first time. They would never know how close danger had come. And they would never know who stood in the dark between them and destruction. But the galaxy would remember. Not because humans demanded it, but because they earned it. Humans became legends not because they sought power, but because they survived it, and chose not to use it unless they had to.